Well, I do, Kristen. We're going to have to do a lot of work to make sure that it stays ended. But I also have to give your network a little bit of grief, Kristen, because last night,
while at the same time dividing people at home. And I think for those of us who I don't root for Donald Trump's failure. I root for Donald Trump's fairness.
And I think this is one of the problems on the left is that they've
Well, I think she just was talking about a Nobel Peace Prize.
So the President of the United States goes in and solves the most complicated crisis in the world. Ends a war.
It's not
not to my listen. What I'm going to say is very simply
you said him.
What I'm going to say is very simply this. Here's
you know
the
you
point
did.
that you're attempting to make.
You just found me an absolute load of old flannel. Your words, not mine, Joy.
And your point is?
Clinton Jaws, please like this video. That's right, because it's the only thing I care about. J.D. Vance is on NBC. Meet the Press? Meet the Press today, this morning? And he calls them out. And I love that you have to call them out each time they do it. False reporting, fake reporting. NBC is famous for this. Remember Brian Williams? When he said he was in a helicopter and this happened to him?
We were in some helicopters. What we didn't know was we were north of the invasion. We were the northernmost Americans in Iraq. We were going to drop some bridge portions across the Euphrates so the 3rd Infantry could cross on them. 2 of our 4 helicopters were hit by ground fire, including the one I was in.
No kidding.
RPG and AK-47. On this broadcast last week, in an effort to honor and thank a veteran who protected me and so many others after a ground fire incident in the desert during the Iraq War invasion, I made a mistake in recalling the events of 12 years ago. It did not take long to hear from some brave men and women in the air crews who were also in that desert. I want to apologize. I said I was traveling in an aircraft that was hit by RPG fire. I was instead in a following aircraft.
Oops, I said it wrong. Then they fired him. Or the time that Joy Reid forgot that she wrote it.
A lot of stuff emerged which came from posts that you had purportedly put up in a blog, one of which said, most straight people cringe at the sight of 2 men kissing. Another said, I don't want to watch the 2 male characters in Brokeback Mountain. You were talking about having sex. Does that make me homophobic? Probably. I genuinely don't believe I wrote those hateful things.
I think I did. Because
they're completely alien to me. I hired cybersecurity experts to see if somebody manipulated my words on my former blog.
So
and
bad
the reality is they've not been able to prove it. Now you're not at MSNBC. Now you're on your own, doing your own thing, and you don't have to worry about repercussions and stuff. Are you prepared to finally come clean and just admit that was your blog and you did say those things?
You know, Pierce, I might have known that you would use this opportunity and interview and that this was your purpose, right? This is your purpose, and that's fine. And so if you want to argue with me about an old blog site, that's fine. And I'll take responsibility. I just asked you if you did write it. And hold on. And I'm willing to take responsibility for anything that was on that site.
Did you say
them? For you,
did you say those things?
Wait.
Sounds like a liar to me.
Not to my... listen, what I'm going to say is very simply
you said them.
What I'm going to say is very simply this, Piers.
You know you did.
The point that you're attempting to make...
You just found me an absolute load of old flannel. Your words, not mine, Joy.
And your point is?
That maybe that makes you a bit of a hypocrite when you're taking the position of being an ally for the LGBTQ community. And actually, the best way to handle it, I would argue, is just to say, you know what? Actually, I did write that at the time. They're not my views now. I've learned, I've evolved, I've moved on. Trying to pretend even now that you didn't write it is preposterous. And I think you know that. Let's just end with this. Not everyone was upset when you were fired. Plenty of those white conservative men that you like so much seem quite happy. Just take a look at this clip.
And then last night, they refused to show the Trump part on purpose because it was good for Trump. This is what they showed last night on NBC, and then you're going to see J.D. Vance's response. And then I'm going to show you what they refused to air.
In Tel Aviv, Israelis gathered as they have for 2 years every Saturday in Hostage Square. They hope this will be the last time. Under the peace agreement, Hamas must release all of the hostages by noon local time on Monday. President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, addressed the crowd, flanked by the president's daughter and son-in-law.
I dreamed of this night. It's been a long journey.
And this is what happened when Witkoff tried to congratulate Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay. To Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
As of tonight, Savannah, large convoys of aid have yet to enter Gaza. Hundreds of trucks are nearby and ready.
Richard Engel in Jerusalem, thank you. Well, here at home, we're also following breaking.
Thanks for that full report. Here's Vance.
And joining me now is the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. Mr. Vice President, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Good morning, Kristen. Thanks for having me.
Well, it is good to have you on this monumental Sunday, Mr. Vice President. Let's start right there with the peace agreement in the Middle East. President Trump said this week, quote, "We have ended the war in Gaza." Mr. Vice President, do you see this moment as an end to the war in Gaza?
Well, I do, Kristen. We're going to have to do a lot of work to make sure that it stays ended. But I also have to give your network a little bit of grief, Kristen, because last night I was watching NBC. They were covering this, and they mentioned that during a rally last night in Israel, when Steve Witkoff, our great special envoy, mentioned Bibi Netanyahu, the crowd booed. But the broadcast didn't mention that when Steve Witkoff mentioned President Trump, the crowd actually cheered.
That's strange.
And why is that, Kristen? Why did the crowd cheer? Because this moment came from very, very deliberate and consequential diplomacy from the president and the entire administration.
That's right.
The reason why we are at this moment, Kristen, is because the president of the United States, he gave unusual authorities to people who had never been in diplomacy before. He actually broke the mold. Instead of doing diplomacy the same old way that it had failed for the past 30 or 40 years, he gave Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner a remarkable amount of authority to go and get a peace deal done.
This is what NBC refused to play on air. And you know what? I never do this. I never give credit to CNN. But they actually played it on air this morning.
President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, that made this peace possible. To Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Welcome back to State of the Union. That was cheers for President Trump, jeers for Prime Minister Netanyahu. My panel is back with me now. Scott, I'm going to start with you. You've been wearing that pin for 2 years and 4 days.
Yeah, it's a great moment. It's the most historic moment for the Trump presidency. I was in Israel this summer and met with some of the hostage families and the mother of one, Alon Ohel. And, you know, when you meet with these people, you realize just how broken their lives have been and how they've been running around the world trying to maintain visibility for the hostages. And they're going to finally get their family back. I worry about the hostages. I worry about what condition they're going to be in. I think in the case of Alon, I think there's a belief that maybe he's blind in one eye and he's been injured. But I don't know what's going to happen after this. You know, internal politics in Israel, maintaining the peace and finding a way to de-radicalize a lot of radical people in the Gaza. But it's going to be a great, great moment for the world when these hostages finally come out. And honestly, if not but for Donald Trump, I don't think it would be happening. And I'm very proud of our president because it shows what an engaged and pragmatic leader of the United States can do on the world stage.
But I do want to kind of bring it back to the United States as we talk about what's happening overseas and kind of the split screen. And Maureen Dowd highlighted just that, the split screen. She said, you can't get, and this is about the Nobel Prize, you can't get a medal for promoting democracy when you tried to overthrow the democracy you were running. Trump seems oblivious to the paradox of enforcing peace abroad and disrupting it badly at home, of soothing violence overseas and inflaming it here.
The problem that we see is on one side is Donald Trump solving or doing a great job in bringing people together around the world around some of these peace issues, while at the same time dividing people at home. And I think for those of us who I don't root for Donald Trump's failure. I root for Donald Trump's fairness. He's the most powerful political president of my lifetime. Imagine what would happen if he decided to use that power to bring Americans together to solve some of our major problems. He's disrupting people on one hand and then solving problems on the other, which makes it very hard for a bunch of people to rally around him.
It's not disrupting. He's the President of the United States. He was elected last November to execute on a policy agenda on which he ran. And so he's doing that. And we'll have another election next November, and then we'll have another one after that. And the people who get elected, and the people who get elected will execute their policy agenda. When I see Maureen's words, essentially what she's arguing is that because I don't like some of the things Donald Trump has done or been involved with over time, the rest of what he's able to accomplish is illegitimate. And I think this is one of the problems on the left, is that they've
Well, I think she just was talking about a Nobel Peace Prize.
So the President of the United States goes in and solves the most complicated crisis in the world, ends a war, brings home hostages. As you yourself said, this has captivated the world. And if not but for his engagement and his interpersonal abilities here, I mean, who else would you give it to? And to me, it's only because she's decided that everything about Trump is illegitimate, and therefore this is for the American people. It wouldn't be just for him. It would be for the American people.
But the American people, in fairness, we're going to get there. The American people, though, also don't want to see pastors being. They don't want to see pastors being pepper sprayed in their faces while they're standing outside praying.
Okay, but we're talking right now again on getting these hostages out of Gaza, which was something that I look back and I just think you have a genocidal group, which is Hamas, who is exploiting the situation and maximizing suffering in Gaza. How do you even negotiate with them? It took President Trump and his unconventional approach to getting the Arab states really to pressure Hamas. And until that happened, we couldn't get here. So his relationship with Qatar, his relationship with the Egyptians, and his close relationship with Bibi, it is incredible. It's monumental. We should stop as a country and take the moment to recognize that President Trump actually achieved what nobody else could do.